halls of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 10, the 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels feared to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride!
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night!
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
And now recorded from the CRW studios in Almost Heaven, West Virginia, it's the Country Roads webcast with your host, Jordan Cruz.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the CRW podcast here for Season 7, Episode 192. We're going to break down the matchup against the Albany Great Danes here in Game 2 of the 2024 WVU football season. And joining me to help me do that is my co-host, Steven.
What's going on, everybody?
We got Bradley out on assignment this week, but he'll be back soon, most likely for our next episode when we review the game against Albany, and looking forward to that as well, and hopefully be a better one to review then as well. Hopefully West Virginia gets on the winning track this week as this matchup, Albany comes in at 1-0, West Virginia coming in 0-1, going to be on September 7th, obviously, 6 o'clock p.m. kick, so we'll get to see it under those new lights at Mountaineer Field, going to be televised on ESPN+. It is the Gold Rush game for WVU, so if you're heading up, be sure and wear gold. Albany defeated Long Island 27-21 in Week 1. West Virginia is 24-0 all-time against FCS opponents, so that's a streak we'd like to see continue. Steven, before we get into breaking down the matchups on each side of the ball here, what's kind of just your opening thoughts heading into this game? West Virginia looking to get in the win column here against an FCS opponent. How are you feeling heading into Week 2?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about this game. I've spent the earlier part of this week trying to pick myself up. Last year after the Penn State game, I really wasn't, I don't know, I didn't really feel that down about it. But this year, I'm telling you, I don't know, even though the outcome was somewhat expected in some ways, it's still, I don't know. It's been a depressing last few days for myself that I've tried to pick myself up from. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of looking forward to this week, is getting up there. And these games, you usually kind of can just enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the people around, and so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
me too. I'm right there in the same boat with you. I'm sure a lot of Mountaineer Nation is as well. Hard one to bounce back from when not the fact that you lose, but just kind of the manner in which you lost. I think, especially with all the hype leading up to it, we all thought it would go a different way. So we're all ready to turn the page and look forward to this game against Albany, where we should have a lot better results in this one, and we really hopefully find out a little bit more about our team, because that's one thing that I'm looking forward to in this game, because I think really after that game against Penn State, there were some questions we were looking to get answers for, some stuff about the team we were hoping to find out, and really, came away from that game still kind of honestly maybe with even more questions. So it's like hopefully over these next couple of weeks, starting with this game against Albany, we're going to learn a little bit more about our team specifically. I think it's a lot about us as West Virginia, even more so than it is about the opponent, all due respect to Albany, but we're hoping to find out a little bit more about the Mountaineers this coming Saturday,
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say too, is, if you're the actual football team, you got to be thinking to yourselves that, there's a lot you have to prove still yet, as, proving that all the hype wasn't, for nothing, I guess. Proving that you have an identity, proving there's a lot to prove this weekend, even with the opponent being who it is. You don't pick the opponent. You pick how you respond to that opponent.
Great way to put it. I think that one of the things that I'm looking for is I want to see us get off to a better start, come with a little bit better energy, kind of settle down from the beginning. Neil Brown talked about after last game that he felt like there was kind of that anxiety, especially with the offense early on in that game against Penn State. So I'm hoping that you come out here clicking on all cylinders from, the first snap of the game to the last snap of the game and really, remain focused throughout the game.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I was thinking about to myself. I mean, in regards to this game is, even though we are undefeated against the FCS opponents that we've played all the time, there's been a lot of games where, it's been close or closer than it should be at a lot of points in those games. So that's one thing that I really want to see is I want to come out and whoop them. I think I mentioned to you guys the other day, I think it would be a statement if our defense could hold them to without a touchdown. I don't know if it's realistic to think that we could hold them scoreless, but very much if I'm the defense, that's my goal. And then on the flip side, on the offense, I don't think your goal is to necessarily score as many points as you can. I think your goal is to prove that you can play fundamentally sound football.
Yes.
We spoke about that the other day. You've got to make the receivers have to watch the ball into the chest. You have to make possession catches, better possession catches, more consistently. The offensive line has to hold their guys better, has to get to their blocks and hold their blocks better. There's a lot of things. I think the running game looked fairly decent for the most part on Saturday for us, for what it, for how everything else went. Even when Jaheim went down, Jaheim looked okay whenever he came back in to me, for what he had to deal with. He was getting
Thankfully,
5 and 6 yards a carry. I don't know what the official numbers were, but from just guesstimating. But yeah, the receivers, offensive line for sure. GG has to play a lot better than he did. And then obviously the defense has to play a lot better as well. But
definitely, I think being more mentally prepared will go hand in hand with hopefully just being more careful with the football. I think you need to limit turnovers. You put the ball on the ground far too many times last week, whether it was drop passes, like you mentioned, the fumbles that we had. I want to see us take better care of the football for sure. So that's kind of some of our opening thoughts here for this one against Albany. We're going to talk a little bit about the matchups on each side of the ball. Then, of course, we'll talk our key to victory and give our score predictions before we take a look around the Big 12 before we wrap up the episode and make our picks for week 2 in the conference. Some fun games coming up in week 2. I know in week 1 it was a lot of matchups against, FCS opponents, much like West Virginia has this week. But there's some more interesting games here in week 2 on the slate, so it should be fun when we get to that around the Big 12 segment to wrap up this episode. But before we do that, let's preview this game with the Albany Great Danes. Albany is, a pretty talented FCS team, especially last year. This is a team that made the FCS semifinals there in the playoff there at that level. This year, they have lost some people from that team, so maybe not quite as talented, but they do come into this game ranked number 16th in the FCS poll. So let's talk a little bit first about when Albany has the ball and West Virginia is on defense here, Stephen. As far as the Albany offense is concerned, I think the main guy that West Virginia needs to be concerned about is Seven McGee. He's a wide receiver that transferred from Oregon. He's going to be a player to watch in this game. He has great speed. Neil Brown mentioned in his press conference that he may be the fastest player on the field for either team, and he's someone they're going to look to get the ball to, not only throwing it to him, but they're going to hand it to him. You're thinking jet sweeps, screen plays, however they can get the ball to him. He will definitely be one to watch. He was their highest graded offensive player in week 1 with an 85 overall offensive grade, 5 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown. But Albany's go-to on offense is running the football, so we also have to be aware of the running back there, Griffin Waddell. He'll be a focal point for them. He was the second highest graded player on offense for Albany in week 1 with a 75.4 offensive grade. He had 20 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown, and last year in 2023, he averaged 5 yards per carry and ran for 900 yards despite the fact he was only a true freshman. The quarterback will be Miles Burkett, but he did struggle a bit in week 1. He's a young guy, only a sophomore there, below 50% completion for them in week 1, and was actually their lowest graded player on offense there with the 41.7 grade. So I think that leads me to believe that, getting the ball to Seven McGee will be a lot of, reverses,
Jet sweep.
handoffs, screen plays, and stuff more so than trying to target him downfield. Even though he has the speed for them to be able to do that, West Virginia's really going to have to focus in and try and keep everything in front of them in this football game and be mindful of those type of plays. But, Stephen, what are kind of your thoughts here about the West Virginia defense? You mentioned in our opening thoughts, we're looking to see them improve this week. And they do have, some good players in this Albany offense that we'll have to account for. Seven McGee, Griffin Waddell being kind of the two main ones. But what are your thoughts about how West Virginia's defense can match up with this Albany offense?
Well, that we talked about a second ago, having something to prove. There is specifically an area that West Virginia can show improvement is being able to really contain the edge.
Yeah.
So if they're going to be running, those reverses, those jet sweeps, those types of plays, and run that type of offense, those types of plays more or less hurt West Virginia last week.
They did.
I think one positive is that this quarterback hopefully isn't too mobile. And if he is, West Virginia, or he's not going to be as mobile as Drew Aller, I guess, or their
not.
offensive line won't be able to create so much one-sidedness on the field. But I think West Virginia, if they can contain the edge, they'll have a good game, which I think they can. Josiah Trotter had a good game last week, but I think, both outside linebackers really have to come down and do a better job of helping out, because it wasn't any, mystery in the offseason that we were going to have a loss of depth at the defensive line.
Yeah.
And that's what hurt us. But I thought we would do a better job of, bringing guys down to help out. But Penn State was just really good at manipulating that type of defense. I think they knew that we had to have help, and that's why you've seen a lot of guys get open over the middle, because you got one-on-one with safeties back there, and it's tougher than what it looks.
Yeah, definitely. I think, wouldn't be surprised to see Albany maybe try and throw in some, motions and shifts into their game plan for this week after they saw how, Penn State had success with that, with Andy Kotelnicki and the crazy things he likes to do there on offense. They can really get a defense all messed up, and really that's what hurt us a lot, I think, was just being misaligned a lot because due to those motions and things. So I think that's one thing I want to see this week. You mentioned the defensive line. I want to see them play better. But I want to see us, have better alignment on defense, not be misaligned, better gap integrity on those run plays when they do choose to run the football, because they're a run first team. So we're going to have to defend that run. And of course, then be, ready for the misdirection, the fake the handoff, get it out there to Seven McGee, the speedster, try and get him out on the edge and, have those guys with that edge containing, like you talked about. It's a good game for, Aubrey Burks, playing that spear position containing the edge. It's a good game for Tyron Bradley and Ty French at the spur doing the same thing there. And hopefully our defensive line comes to play a little bit more than they did in that first game there against Penn State.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to see a little bit more out of Fatorma Moba.
I
think, that's a really big body, athletic big body right there in the middle. That can create a lot of pressure up front, or right there in the middle up front. So
I agree. I'm going to be interested to see
obviously
what
Sean
they
Martin
do.
and those guys too, but
yeah, I think all the starters need to step it up a little bit. It seemed like, some of the backups when they came in really had a bit more energy. So I'd like to see those starters have more energy on that front of that defensive line. But one thing I'm be interested to see on the back end, though, is who comes out to start the game at safety, because, last week KK Tarnew got to start there at the cat safety position. But then, after just one series, maybe two series, it was Jaheim Joseph the rest of the way. I looked at the snap counts today for the members only video there on the Country Roads webcast YouTube. And, KK Tarnew, despite getting the start, ended up only playing 9 snaps, and Jaheim Joseph had 35 or 36, I believe. So I'm going to be interested to see if Jaheim Joseph maybe overtakes that starting spot and gets some more playing time this week. And I think that's something to keep an eye on, really, with a few positions. Ben Cutter was kind of out there before Reed Carrico, but Reed Carrico kind of outplayed him. See if he gets some more snaps there. See if TJ Jackson gets some more snaps on the defensive line, because some of those reserves that came in really made, some good plays and, even outperformed the starters in some instances. So I'm going to be interested to see kind of how the snaps are divvied up there, especially on that back end of the safety position. I want to see if we go with Jaheim Joseph there moving forward, really.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to see, because we heard a lot about KK Tarnew in the offseason. So I thought there was going to be I was excited about him. He was one that came from he was one that came from Rich Rod down there at Jacksonville State. I thought he did a really good job down there. So I don't know. That's surprising if he's going to lose his spot that early. Not to say
It
that
would
Jaheim
be.
Joseph doesn't deserve playing time, but
Hopefully it's just something about, getting more acclimated to this scheme, and maybe it's just going to take him a little bit. But this is, a good game for that, to get you, more used to the speed, more used to, the scheme itself. And hopefully we'll
right.
see some guys step up in that secondary, Rodney Gallagher included. That's another thing that surprised me with the snap counts. He actually played more snaps on defense than he did on offense. No, he didn't play a lot in the second half, but hopefully this is the game where things can slow down for him and you can really get him some good reps at that nickel spot, because then that'll allow you to keep Aiden Garnes on the outside corner spot, versus in that first game, they moved Aiden Garnes in there to play that nickel spot, and you had Dantes Fagan on the outside with Garnett Halls, which I thought Dantes Fagan impressed me, but I'll be watching that secondary, see kind of how the pieces match up here in this game against Albany, who all's out there and how many times and who plays well. That's kind of what you're watching to see. Like we said, we're just trying to learn a little bit more about this ball club here in week 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily fair for us to judge at least the entire secondary unit off of, just a week 1 performance.
Right.
Like my original thought process, I really thought it was going to take at least a week for our defense to kind of really mesh and learn how to gel. So
yeah, I think they're only going to get better as the season goes along.
Yeah, I believe so too. I also think so.
And I think, that's what we talked about more than anything. I think it was kind of a mental thing, a lot of mental errors, whether it was, just not trusting your fundamentals, getting out of your lanes and your rushes and things like that. So just having the mind ready, I think, will be play a big part for West Virginia on, both sides of the football. And, one good way they could have their mind ready, Stephen, one thing that we love and we support here, it's Magic Mind here at the Country Roads webcast. We've talked about it a lot, and going to keep talking about it, you guys, because it's such a great product that we can't recommend to you all enough. West Virginia wants to have focus. They want to have mental clarity in this game. They should hand out some Magic Mind in the locker room, because I know it helps me have that whenever I take it daily, helps me through my daily routines, less anxiety, all of that good stuff. And, I've told you guys about all the great benefits, all the natural ingredients, but there's other things that I want to tell you guys about it as well. And that's, of course, if you do buy Magic Mind, they donate 5 cents for each bottle sold to mental health charities that help U.S. homeless communities. They're also 100% carbon neutral. And also, there's no risk if you want to try out this product. They're so confident that they will refund you 100%, no questions asked, within 100 days of your purchase. So just multiple great reasons for you to try Magic Mind. And, you can even get a discount from us here at the Country Roads webcast using our link there at magicmind.com/countrylt. You can get 48% off your first subscription, or 20% off a one-time purchase. If you do just want to give it that one-time go around, you can do that as well. Just enter the code CountryLT20 at checkout. Just visit magicmind.com/countrylt to try yours today. Can't recommend it enough for you guys out there. So, Stephen, that's a little bit about the West Virginia defense against the Albany offense. Let's flip it over to the other side of the ball and talk about the West Virginia offense when they have the ball going up against this Albany defense. We know we're looking to see a much better performance from West Virginia's offense in this game. I think that they weren't anywhere close to what we were expecting them to be coming into this season in game 1. So hopefully we'll see a little bit better version of them here in week 2. But a little bit about this Albany defense is they're pretty much expected to mainly play man-to-man defense. They've done that really no matter who they face, which really shows that they have great trust in their cornerbacks when they do that against, even, Power 5 teams, FBS teams that they've played in the past. They've still come out and tried to play man-to-man. So it should be a good game for our receivers to showcase that they can, get off the press coverage, get open in man-to-man situations. They have 2 good corners that will help them out there when they're playing that man-to-man coverage. Those will be Kavon Angry and Irv Wiggins Jr. Both of those were 2 of their top 5 highest graded players on defense in week 1 with a 68.3 and a 67 overall grade, respectively. They have good players up front on the defensive line. Neil Brown talked about that. They've really developed defensive linemen good there over the past few years. Their best player, arguably, in week 1 was Ibrahim Sanago. He played less snaps than some of their other defensive linemen and some of their other edge players, but he really came out with phenomenal grades, 90.1 defensive grade and a 91.5 pass rush grade. So those are some names to look out for on that Albany defense. But Long Island was able to gain 358 total yards, actually perfectly balanced, 179 pass yards, 179 rush yards. So it seems like, if Long Island's able to gain 358 yards of total offense, West Virginia's offense should be able to have a bit of a get-right game, hopefully, in this one against Albany. That's what I'm hoping to see. But, Stephen, what are your thoughts about West Virginia's offense matching up against this Albany defense, and what are you expecting to see from the Mountaineers?
Like I said earlier, it's not entirely about the amount of points that you score in this, but in a way, it also, I guess, kind of is, because you really need a dominant performance from this offense too, for as explosive as we heard that this offense is going to be. But with that being said, I think if they're going to be playing man to man all game, we've got a lot of speed, that
Yes.
that we could really utilize in this football game. So I wouldn't really be surprised if they put Jaheim out there and lined him up a wide out with his speed also.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I think that he's going to be targeted in multiple ways for sure.
It depends on how they spy Garrett Green. If it's only one guy spying GG, then I think we can exploit that. He might have a good day rushing the ball, but I really would like to see a dominant performance in the passing game, though, for the most part.
I think that that's what you're probably going to hope to see with them, hopefully, believed to play man-to-man defense. I think it could be a big day for the receivers potentially, maybe get some passes attacking downfield. But I like what you said there about the spy, because, if they are spying Garrett Green, it's going to be a lot more to our advantage versus, in week one when Penn State was running a spy, they've got some linebackers that run, 4.5 40. So Garrett Green wasn't going to outrun that spy, probably 70, 80% of the time. Anybody else that spies Garrett Green, he's going to be faster than them. Penn State just had a super fast defense, so that's one reason that caused us trouble. But, moving forward, if other teams try and replicate Penn State's game plan, cover one, man-to-man, and spy Garrett Green, I think that our offense will make them pay for it. One thing I'm watching, you mentioned Jaheim White. Obviously, I'm hoping that he gets plenty of touches in this game. Neil Brown said that they were hoping to have more touches for him last game. Some of the ones that he didn't get was due to, misreads by Garrett Green on the read option, some plays he should have gave that he ended up pulling. And then also they had some plays that were designed to go to him. I think both of the fumbles, or at least one of the fumbles, was going to be a touch for Jaheim, and they missed him on a couple of passes out of the backfield. So I think we're going to see us, use Jaheim White in a lot of different ways, not only handing him the football, but some screens, some targets in the pass game as well, and hopefully can be a really good game for Jaheim White to, bust out and explode, kind of like I thought he would do in week one, and maybe he would have been well on his way to it before the injury. So, it's going to be interesting to see what West Virginia does in this one. Don't know how vanilla they'll be game plan wise. They may not want to give away too much, with Pitt coming up on the schedule as well. So we'll see what they decide to do their game plan wise. But I think really what I want to see is just better execution at the little things. We mentioned, taking better care of the football. Don't want to see him put it on the ground, whether it's drop passes, fumbles. Really want to limit those in this contest. But also just as far as, blocking, not only the offensive linemen, but the receivers on the outside. The coaches were talking about in their press conferences this week in the lead up to this game against Albany that they felt like, some of the 10, 12-yard runs they had could have been 20 or 30-yard gains if the receivers would have just ran off the defenders there that were holding them in man coverage versus, standing there trying to block them. They said they did a really good job of that last season. So hopefully, that's a learning experience for them. And I think that that's one silver lining from when you have such a bad performance offensively, is you got all of that on film and you pretty much know what not to do now. So you should be able to course correct and really make a lot of improvement with this West Virginia offense coming up here in week 2 against Albany.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of areas. It's not just one or two groups. So, there's a lot of areas that really need to come out and play. So that's why I guess, kind of like, Brad mentioned for the Penn State game, we can't come out and be flat, and we kind of did. So in this game, you've got to be able to get yourself up and motivated to where you don't come out flat in the first part of the game either. I'm not necessarily saying that that's going to cause you to lose the game if you do, but it creates a likelihood of that if you do that.
That's the recipe for an upset right there, is if you let them hang with you too long, they start to build confidence, thinking they can play with you, and then that's how those type of things happen. So you want to get off to a fast start and jump out with an early lead in this one, and then hopefully, what I'd love to see is we're play so good in the first half that second half of this football game, we get to see some of these young guys get in and get some action. We get to see, the Nico Markiels, the Trayvon Dunbars, Day Farmer, Dom Collins. I'd love to see all those guys get on the football field in this game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see Dom Collins in there. What do you think the chances are that we see Ryder Burton even?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I think
Nico
FCS games in the
and
past, we've gotten 3 quarterbacks in, so I could see it.
Yeah. So I don't know. In a perfect world, we play so well in the first half. You could play Nico the entirety of the third quarter, and then you play Ryder, see what he can do in the fourth quarter. I would love if that were the case.
That's exciting to me. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, an FCS matchup, these are always boring." But to me, it's interesting because you get to see some players play that you're not going to get to see play a lot this season. And if you do get to see some of them, it probably won't be till the later portion of the season when they really start kind of coming into their own and getting more grasp at this level. But it's probably going to be the only chance you get to see a Ryder Burton play or someone like that. So that's always nice to see. Get a glimpse of the future a little bit in these games. Potentially if everything goes the way that it should go.
Right. That's kind of the way it went last year. Who was the quarterback?
Sean Boyle.
Sean Boyle last year, and he's eventually transferred out of WVU. So a lot of these guys, not to say that they're going to transfer out, but if that were the case or whatever, or say that Ryder does go on to be the starting quarterback for WVU, after Nico leaves. So it's your chance to see him for the foreseeable future and until then. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's one thing that I will give Neil Brown credit on is we've done a great job of retaining our quarterbacks, recruits. We really haven't had to go to the portal for our quarterbacks. We get to watch them grow up in front of our eyes, and that's kind of one thing that I was disappointed in losing with this new age of college football, I guess you could say, is before we got to watch all 4 years of Pat, all 4 years of Rashid, all of those guys, and that was really what made me fall in love with college football. So like losing that in a way for a lot of areas on your team in the current era, I really appreciate that being something that's important to the staff at WVU is retaining your QBs.
Well, and it's nice to see us, playing quarterbacks that we recruited out of high school because it was almost a decade, until we got to Garrett here that was happening. We were just on that transfer portal hamster wheel there at quarterback from 2014 through 2022 or 2021. So, it's nice to see us
even up to JT Daniels,
Yeah. Until Garrett took over as a starter, it was transfer after transfer, and then now seems like we've gotten into a good spot where Garrett waited his turn. He's going to start 2 years. Nico theoretically could start 2 years, and then Ryder Burton could start 2 years if you can keep all these guys around. I know Ryder Burton's a transfer, but you're still getting him in here when he's a redshirt freshman, so he's still going to be in your program for all those years before he gets a chance to play. So it's a good cycle to be on if you can keep that going for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then
that's one of those positions you really need to have. Like we've talked about how offensive line is a position that you can't. That's one thing that I don't think will make Coach Prime successful with his current model.
I agree.
Is because the offensive line is not something you can go to the transfer portal to, for. Those guys have to be recruited over time, and that class has to be built up over time.
They have to have chemistry with each other over time. Yeah.
Right. Chemistry with each other, chemistry with the quarterback, pretty much everybody on the offense. A lot of people put the most pressure on a quarterback, and rightfully so. It's the hardest position in sports, bar none. And I will stand by that until the day I die. But the offensive line, in a way, is very similar. They're protecting that guy. So while they, while their job is a little bit different, I think that their job is just as much important, and they have to have chemistry with everybody on that offense.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm glad you said that. You brought it to offensive line because that's kind of what I was going to lead into. That's one thing I'm going to keep an eye on in this game. I know Penn State's defense, especially the defensive line. We're talking about the number 1 rush D in the country last year, so it's kind of hard to judge in that game. But I would love to see a better performance from our offensive line in this one, really be able to get that run game going and hopefully kind of revert back to what we saw last year from those guys. Because right now there's some concerns, after losing Frazier, losing Nestor, we thought, we got these guys that have been here a while, we'll be able to plug and play and it be the same. One game's a small sample size, so I think we're going to learn a lot over the next couple of weeks about how good this offensive line can and will be moving forward, because we're going to need them to be good if we want to have the type of successful season that we believe and hope that we can here in 2024. So, coming out against this Albany team, I know, it's an FBS versus FCS, so in theory, you should be able to handle their defensive line, but Albany does do a good job developing players there. So, if West Virginia does come out and hold their own, it's a positive sign moving forward and a step in the right direction at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if, like, for example, if we come out and we have one of those games where, it's 35-27 and, it's late into the fourth quarter where it's, where it's finally decided, that's not going to give me a lot of confidence moving into week 3. And that will hurt my heart. I'll be completely honest with you if that's the case.
It wouldn't be a good sign because, I heard someone else say this on another show. I can't remember who it was necessarily, but when you look at it, when West Virginia's had the close games against FCS opponents, those were years when they weren't very good. Neil Brown's first year, 2019, when the cupboard was bare, we had a close game with James Madison. We went 5-7 that year. And then back 2013 against William and Mary, I think we ended up winning that one by 7, and we went, 4-8 that year. So, if you have a close game versus an FCS team, historically, it's not a good sign. So you want to come out and handle business in this one for sure.
Well, I can remember, like, just as a comparison, and you guys know me, I always compare these teams to the 2000s teams. Right. But I can remember one time, and I believe that it might have been James Madison as well, JMU, that we played in this game. We won like 49-7 or something like that. And I'm pretty sure it was Pac-Man Jones in an interview after the game and like the press conference that they hold. He was talking about, he was like, we still won by like 40-something points, but we played horrible. He was like, and I mean horrible. And like that just shows you like we won by that much and we played horrible.
Yeah.
But you got,
it's the difference in the levels, especially, power conference versus FCS.
That's exactly right. So you got to come out and you got to have a dominant mindset. You're playing under the lights, if you can't get up
lights.
The new lights, you're going to have pretty much a light show. That's one thing I'm excited about is they've already shown that they're going to do the blue lights. I think I've seen some yellow up there on the LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I know for sure once they score a touchdown, they will turn the lights off and they'll have like kind of like a light show that goes through the crowd with the spotlights of those. Whether they use just regular spotlights or whether they use golden blue lights, that's more likely the case, the golden blue lights.
That'll be cool though. It's gonna be nice to see, and just to see it probably be a whole different look to the game once the sun goes down than the yellow tinted lights we were used to. So it's gonna be. I'm excited to even check that out as well. I guess that's pretty much all I got on matchups, Steven. Unless you got any other thoughts about the West Virginia offense versus the Albany defense, we can go ahead and get into our key to victory for this one.
Nope, that's all I got on that, brother.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's do it now. We'll talk about our keys to victory here for West Virginia to come up with the win over Albany on Saturday in the Gold Rush game there at Mountaineer Field. And then we will give our score predictions here before we take a look around the Big 12. Key to victory, I'll lead this one off, Stephen. For me, it's kind of something that we've kind of touched on briefly. I wrote down, bring the energy, maintain your focus, and just execute. I think that that's the main thing in this one. You're the more talented team. You've got more talent, kind of the inverse of the way things were in week 1. You just need to come out with the right mindset, be focused for this game, and get off to that fast start. Bring that energy for that crowd to be able to be into it from the get-go. And then, of course, just execute, whether it's your fundamentals on defense or offense. All you have to do is, follow the game plan, do what you're supposed to do, and you should come out of this one with a win. So that's my key to victory. Bring the energy, maintain your focus, and execute. What do you got this week, Stephen?
You actually said mine within yours, but the main thing that came to my mind is mindset. Mindset. You have to have the right mindset going into this game. That's my key to victory. If you don't have the right mindset and you come out and lackluster and you're, either down about last week or not motivated because this opponent isn't good enough, any of those reasons, it could potentially go bad. So I think if you have a good mindset, you come out positive, come out excited and motivated, hungry, really, I think it should be a good night for us. Like I said, I think we're going. I feel like I've talked kind of negative tonight about us, but I still think that we're going to be a really good football team. We just have to go out and show it.
I'm with you. That's it. That's what you got to do from here on out is you got to just, show everybody that you do have that capability, that all your goals are still in front of you, and get everybody that's, panicked after a week 1 loss back on, the tracks with you, back behind you and supporting you. And no better way to do that than just come out focused, ready to play, and show everybody what you can do and show you everyone that you are a good football team and you will have a successful season. So that's what we're talking about there. Key to victory. Now it's that time, the best time here for these preview and predictions episodes is when we give our predictions for the upcoming game. So, Stephen, let's get into score prediction here. I'll let you lead this one off first. What's your prediction for this game here in week 2 for the 2024 WVU football season?
Well, I touched on it earlier that I wanted the defense to hold them without a touchdown. I don't think it's realistic to think that we can go and hold them scoreless. But with that being said, I think the offense will come out and they'll play pretty well this Saturday. So I'm going to go with 49-9.
Okay.
I think that they get 3 field goals, but I think West Virginia does come out and get that performance that we're looking for.
I like it.
We're moving into week 3. Confident.
With the big rivalry coming up, and Steven's got the 40-point win on the way there. So definitely a fan of that one. I obviously am thinking, along the similar lines as far as what West Virginia's going to score. I think they're really going to want to come out and have some explosive fireworks there on the offensive side, really show that this offense is going to still be, that explosive offense that we saw to end 2023, that they're going to come back around to their usual selves and show that first game was an anomaly. So I think we'll attack downfield. I think we'll break some big runs. And I've got a scoring, pretty big close to what you got there, but I'm hoping to get that 50 burger, Steven. So I've got West Virginia scoring 52. And although I think our defense will put on a good performance, like you said, I think maybe when we put some of the backups in there, Albany scores some late touchdowns. So I do got Albany scoring 17, but I got a commanding win for West Virginia, 52-17 over Albany here in game 2.
Yeah, I would. I like that. I may switch to go to 50-9.
Yeah, you may as well give them. I mean, you got them at 49. Give them that extra point. May as well.
Want that half century, baby.
Yeah, get that 50 burger, man. That's a statement.
Can hear that? I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm sorry, my neighbor is doing some construction out there.
Oh, I didn't hear it. I don't think.
There's a saw.
It might have came through. No worries. All right, so that's what we got there. Matchups, key to victory, and score predictions. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and take a look around the conference here for week 2. Make our game picks for the other matchups going on around the Big 12 this week. Like I said, some more interesting games on the slate. And it starts off Friday night. We do got a Friday night game here. Stephen, BYU going to be on the tube Friday night on ESPN2, 7 o'clock Eastern there. They're playing at SMU on the road there. BYU versus SMU, another Big 12 versus ACC matchup. Still funny to have some of these teams in some of these conferences. But, I mean, I think I know who you're taking on this one, but who's your pick in the BYU-SMU game?
It's like, who's your pick and why are you going with BYU?
Yeah, pretty much that's what I could have said.
Yeah, I'm going with BYU. Being on the road might be a tough test, especially at nighttime on a Friday. But I don't know. SMU didn't look that great in their opening contest to me. So
yeah,
I'm going to roll with BYU. Give me the Cougars.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. SMU had, some high hopes heading into this season. I think a lot of their fans thought they were going to jump into the ACC and start dominating right away now that they were in a power conference. They do have some good players. Preston Stone there at quarterback's good, but I can't go against, the BYU Cougars, Steven, here on this show, man. Got to pick BYU, go with the Big 12 to beat the ACC. It's like you said, going to be tough coming, across the map there for a road game in Texas, but I think BYU will do enough defensively to get the stops they need, and Jake Redslav and that BYU offense comes out, gets the win. So we're unanimous with the BYU pick on the Friday night contest. Let's move into the Saturday slate now. Got Kansas State hitting the road as well to take on Tulane at noon on ESPN. I'm going to ride with the Wildcats in this one myself. Obviously, you guys know when I did my Big 12 predictions, when we did the SPR, I was pretty high on Kansas State, so I can't start doubting them now. Got to have them winning this game over Tulane, so I'm going with the Wildcats. Steven, what about you?
Yeah, I got to roll with the Wildcats too. I'm like you. I think they're going to be one of the most dominant teams in this conference, and I just don't think Tulane's going to have enough to be able to hang with them.
Yeah, I agree. So next up, this one's interesting because multiple, implications for West Virginia. Obviously, we'll play at Cincinnati on that very field later this season. And of course, we've got Pittsburgh next week in that rivalry matchup, the renewal of the backyard brawl. So be interesting to see how this game turns out. Pittsburgh playing Big 12 teams in back-to-back weeks. First up, they're taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats in Cincinnati at noon. This one will be on ESPN2. Big news for Cincinnati is they are getting their probably their best player on their whole team overall. Dante Corleone is cleared to play, so he will be playing there at the nose tackle spot for Cincinnati in this game against Pittsburgh. And, I think this could be a close contest, but there's no way I'm picking the Panthers, man. I got to go with Cincinnati. Steven, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati as well. I'm not going to waste time on telling you why, because you guys already know why.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're going to pick Pitt.
But isn't this the game last year that Pittsburgh lost 27-0? Didn't Cincinnati shut them out?
Cincinnati, they dominated and they ran for I think it was almost 400 yards as well.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, give me the Bearcats.
Yeah, Cincinnati going to do it again, especially playing at home this time. But I'm interested to see what happens in that matchup because Pittsburgh came out against Kent State. Granted, it's Kent State, no offense to Kent State, but their offense looked a little bit more explosive. They do have that new offensive coordinator that came up from, the Division II level or FCS, wherever it was, supposed to have a more wide open offense. So I'm going to be interested to see what they do against another power conference club here. Should be a good tale and some good scouting for us before
Corey Connor's
that
a good
matchup
running back
next
too.
week. Yeah, Corey Connor at Cincinnati is very good. He's underrated.
I got him on my fantasy team.
Yeah, so you're definitely hoping he balls out then.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, then we got another matchup here between, power conference opponents. Arkansas heads into Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State in another noon contest. This one will be on ABC. Steven, I'll let you pick this one first. Who you got here as the Razorbacks head in to take on the Cowboys?
This is actually a pretty tough matchup. You got Arkansas SEC team. They're actually pretty decent this year from what I've seen. But I can't go against Oklahoma State and Stillwater, man. I'm picking them. Yeah. Got to go with them.
It's a tough place to play.
That's my pick to win the Big 12 conference if you guys have been following along.
Yeah, I figured you would take them. Ollie Gordon, tough to stop. Stillwater, like you said, extremely tough place to play. I believe they've got 5 seniors along the offensive line or the defensive line. I saw that today as well. So, can't pick against Gundy. Going to Oklahoma State as well in that one. So we're in agreement yet again. And then we got Steven's, favorite Big 12 member, Utah, playing at home against Baylor, which funny enough, the funny thing about this matchup, it's going to be at 3:30 on Fox, but obviously both these teams are in the Big 12, so you would think, a conference game. But no, they actually scheduled this game prior to, so it's a non-conference game, being counted as a non-conference game, despite both these two teams now being in the Big 12. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's just one of those crazy things that goes on with realignment. I guess that comes with that territory is conference game is a non-conference game because it was scheduled before they became to the same conference. So, yeah, crazy matchup there, but we got the Bears taking on the Utes. As much as it pains me to do it, I think I'm going to have to take Utah in this one, Steven, to get the win over Baylor. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, man, I really want to go with the Bears, but being a realistic person, I've got to go with the Utes.
Yeah,
and I might as well add this to it. As much as I am against them this season, they are better than what I originally thought that they were going to be from what I've seen so far.
They looked good.
I don't think that they're going to win the conference. I still don't think they're going to, but they are a much better football team than I didn't think they were bad, to be fair. But
yeah, just not a fan of them coming in thinking they're going to dominate. That's the only thing.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I agree.
a large part of their fan base
Yeah,
is their issue.
yeah, 100%, 100%. I'm right there with you on that one. So we're both taking Utah there as well, and then we got a little rivalry game going on here. Iowa State and Iowa. This battle, for the Cy-Hawk Trophy there, going to be played in Iowa City. 3:30 Eastern kick there. This one will be televised on CBS. This is an interesting matchup, man. It's tough for me to pick this one. I think Iowa State's going to be good. Love Rocco Becht. But Iowa, they've always had that good defense, but seems like maybe after finally making a change there, they got Kirk Ferentz' son out as offensive coordinator, got a new offensive coordinator in there. Could Iowa maybe have an offense? This game will go a long way in telling that, but Steven, I'm gonna go against the Big 12 in this one. I think that Iowa's going to find a way to win this football game. They've got the good defense. If they do have the offense improved, like I think they might, I think they're going to be a tough team this year. So I'm going to pick the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I think we're going to stay on the on the streak of agreement here because as good as I think Iowa State, I think Iowa State's going to be the best on defense. I'm a fan of Rocco Becht. I'm a fan of their offense, but I just think that Iowa, being one of the top teams in the Big Ten Conference every year, defensively, I just think it's going to be too much for them to handle, especially playing in Iowa.
Yeah, agree.
But yeah,
so we're keeping it going here. We're keeping it going here. We got all the picks the same thus far. Obviously, we talked about Albany and West Virginia. 6:00 kick on ESPN Plus. If you're not making it to Morgantown, be sure to check it out on ESPN Plus or listen to Caridi on the call there on the radio. Then we got Sam Houston at UCF. 6:30 Eastern kick on ESPN Plus as well. Steven, I'm obviously riding with the UCF Knights in this one. What are you thinking? You got Sam Houston pulling an upset, or are you going keep it the same here, keep our streak going?
I felt pretty confident about UCF going into this game, but then whenever I seen the helmets that they unveiled for this game, I was like, "Oh yeah, they're not losing this game." Have you seen those?
Is it the which ones is it? Is it the blue ones? Is that the ones?
No, these are cool.
Oh,
I think
okay.
really, I would love if West Virginia adopted this idea, which is a very strong possibility with the Children's Hospital. But they took the UCF logo, the same one you're looking at right there,
Yeah.
and they just had kids design different stuff inside of the UCF.
Oh,
So there's ones with different colors and things of that nature. There was one I seen with some type of bridge in it, and I think
cool.
that's one of the coolest ideas ever. And some of the helmet designs I seen were very, very cool.
I like that. I like
they're
that.
gonna
So
win
yeah,
those.
no way they're losing.
No way they're losing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're unanimous so far on our picks here in this one. Then we got another Big 12 versus Big 10 matchup here. Kansas has to hit the road, take on Illinois there in Champaign. 7:00 Eastern kick will be televised on Fox Sports 1. Steven, I'll let you pick this one first. Who are you thinking here as the Jayhawks head there into Illinois?
Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. I think that that KU offense is explosive again. They got Daniels back at quarterback, and he looks like that he never got hurt. So I think they're going to roll up there and take care of business. And what is it, Champaign, Illinois?
Champaign.
What a name for a city, though. That's awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah, but I'm in agreement with you, man. I think Kansas still looks pretty good on offense. They did lose Kotelnicki, obviously, but Lance Leipold still, knows offense in his own right. They brought in Jeff Grimes there, and seems like they've still got a good scheme going. Jalen Daniels, as long as he can stay healthy, it's going to make them really click, him and Devin Neal together. I think that Kansas gets the win there on the road. I'm going with the Jayhawks as well, and we're keeping it unanimous so far. We're going to skip over the next one because that's going to be our game of the week this week, so we're going to come back, pick that one last. So we're going to go Houston at Oklahoma here. Formerly would have been a Big 12 matchup last year. Now it's Big 12 versus SEC. It's a night game in Norman, 7:45 kick on the SEC network. Obviously, I think that Houston really showed some holes. We talked about Dana leaving the cupboard bare. Seems like that's the case yet again for Willie Fritz. I think they'll come out and have a better performance than what they showed against UNLV. At least I hope they do. Or if not, this one could get ugly, but I think Oklahoma wins it pretty soundly. Steven, what about you?
Yeah, I think so too. Houston, feel bad for their small fan base.
Yeah, it's gonna be a slow rebuild, and it's gonna be one of the tougher games of this year for them, I'd say.
I think every game's going to be a tough game for them this year.
True.
They looked confused for a large part of that game in week 1, from what I've seen.
Yeah, hopefully they make some adjustments and improvements moving forward because they certainly need it. Then we have another one that should be a win for the Big 12 here. LIU, Long Island Sharks, a team West Virginia played a couple years ago, taking on TCU. 8:00 kick there on ESPN Plus. Steven, who do you got in this one?
Got to go with the Horned Frogs.
Yep. Can't pick against TCU in this one. They're going to get the win there pretty easily. We remain in agreement because I'm going TCU as well. Then we got Texas Tech going into Pullman, Washington for the late kick here, 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox. We all saw Texas Tech struggle in week 1. Is that a wake-up call for them? Do they bounce back, play better here, taking on, Washington State in this football game? It's going to be interesting to see that. But after that performance in week 1, I think I'm going to have to take Washington State to get this win personally, Stephen, playing at home with Texas Tech struggles on the defensive side. I don't know if they can get that corrected that fast between week 1 to week 2. I'd like to see the Big 12 get this win, but I think I've got to pick the Cougars to come out on top here. What about you?
Yeah, exactly the same sentiment. I've got to go with Washington State because you got to believe that Washington State's offense is going to be, pretty. They're known for having good offenses.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about the current Washington State football team, but that's what they're known for. So I'm going to ride with that and pick them because that defense, some school I've never heard of scored 51 points.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they got some holes on that Texas Tech defense right now. So any semblance of offense is going to give them some trouble. So I think it's definitely easy to pick Washington State in that one. Then we got Northern Arizona taking on the Arizona Wildcats. Another 10 o'clock Eastern kick. This one on ESPN Plus. Obviously, Arizona really showed a lot offensively in week 1. Showed some holes on defense in their own right, but putting up 61 points is really impressive. T-Mac was, a 300-yard receiving performance. Obviously, I think they'll easily handle Northern Arizona and wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe put up 70 after they put up 61 last week. So I'm going with the Wildcats in this one. Steven, what about you?
They might score 70. I don't know if they'll quite get there, but I got to go with the Wildcats as well.
Definitely. And then maybe the biggest surprise in week 1 of the Big 12 was Arizona State and how well that they performed in their football game. Now they get to play at home, welcome in Mississippi State for a 10:30 kick there in Tempe. This one will be televised on ESPN. Stephen, what are you thinking in this one here? Mississippi State travels into Arizona to take on the Sun Devils, who kind of surprised with a really good performance there in week 1. Who got in this matchup?
I hope that their fan base is enjoying this week 1 because I really think Mississippi State's going to roll down there in Tempe and give them a wake up call. I got the Bulldogs.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're going to remain in agreement. I would love to make this my upset pick here. See Arizona State get this win. Would love to side with the Big 12. I think maybe they'll give them a contest, but in the end, Mississippi State probably going to be too much. I'm going to side with you as well and go Mississippi State, which brings us to our last pick of the week, our game of the week choice here. Week 2 for the Big 12 Conference. Going to be a fun one to check out here. Colorado, the Fighting primetime team there, heading into Nebraska to take them on at a 7:30 Eastern kick, televised on NBC. Matt Rule at Nebraska seems like he's really got things going in the right direction. They got the quarterback Raiola in. Seems like he's, a Patrick Mahomes clone from down to the number and the way he dresses and looks and throws the football and everything. You can tell he really models his game after Mahomes. We'll see if he ends up being as successful. But I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Colorado showed some holes in week 1 on defense against North Dakota State, but Travis Hunter also showed that he's one of the best players in the college game. Does Nebraska have enough to stop him and be able to score to get this win? What are you thinking, Stephen, in our game of the week here, Colorado versus Nebraska?
Man, I would like to go with the Big 12 Conference in this one because I'm not as big of a I'm not as against Prime as a lot of people. I'm not very high up on them this current season, but I am a fan of Prime. That being said, I got to go with Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers, man. I think that atmosphere and that fan base is going to make it extremely hard, extremely tough for Colorado. And I just don't think that I just don't think that they're that good of a football team. I think they're an average football team with one or two elite players, and those players are really, like Travis Hunter, absolutely, probably one, if not the best player in the entire country.
He's a Heisman candidate. He's got to be.
Absolutely, I think he should be the top of the Heisman candidacy right now.
Yeah.
But I think Shedeur Sanders is also an elite quarterback. I don't think he's quite as good as a lot of people think that he is, but he is. That's the two players that I mean. But I don't think it's enough to get the job done up there in Nebraska. I think they're a tough football team this year, and I'm a big fan of Matt Rule as well.
Yeah, Matt Rule's a really good coach at the college level, especially if he's able to get Nebraska really going again and, cooking like they were back in the 90s. That's going to be, a big thing for him to do. And, he seems like he has them on the right track. This might be the first time this has ever happened that we've picked every pick the same, because I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Nebraska to get the win again. So we're in agreement on all our picks here in the Around the Big 12 segment. I think Colorado, like you said, got some star power, but they showed the holes, on the defensive side. And also, until their offensive line improves and they show the ability to run the football, it's going to be hard to win a lot of games when you're so one-dimensional and you can really only pass the football. Nebraska is certainly going to game plan for that. Maybe, try and just play back, keep everything in front of them, almost play like a prevent-style defense, because they're going to dare you to run the football, show them that you can do it before they change things up, I think. And I think Nebraska has more than enough on the offensive side to score enough to get this victory. And like you said, I got a lot of respect for Matt Rule. I think Colorado, despite their star power, they're going to struggle to probably reach a bowl game even this year. So I think Nebraska really shows kind of the talent discrepancy and kind of how far off Colorado still is in this game. I've got Nebraska by 2 touchdowns in this one, Stephen.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it was anything less than that, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, so
no disrespect to North Dakota State, but if they can hang with Colorado up until the last second like that, you got to expect someone like Nebraska at Nebraska in Lincoln,
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a solid Nebraska victory, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise and get a win for the Big 12, or at least keep it close. We'll see what happens, but those are our picks for the Big 12 slate here in Week 2 as we get set and get ready to wrap up our second preview show of 2024. Always, seems like the season takes forever to get here. Then once we get rolling, this thing just flies by. So one of the main things I want to say here is enjoy it while you can, Mountaineer Nation. Get up to Morgantown if you can. Rally behind this team. Get out like we talked about. See those new lights in action at Mountaineer Field. See a lot of players get in the action, and hopefully get to see West Virginia get a win in this football game. And should be a fun one. Should be a fun one to check out here in Morgantown this Saturday. Wear your gold if you're going. As I said, it is the Gold Rush game. So that's kind of what I wanted to add there. But Stephen, we've talked about the matchups. We've given our keys, our score predictions for West Virginia, and our picks for the Around the Big 12 slate here in Week 2. Any final thoughts before we get ready to wrap up episode 192 here on our Albany Preview and Predictions edition?
Nope. Just want to get back on the winning track. That's my main focus.
Absolutely. Right there with you, man. Get one in the win column. Need to get back to 500 and then hopefully push above that before we start conference play.
Yep.
For sure.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth, man. That's the goal this week is get the win, go 1-0 this week, get to 1-1 on the season, and then hopefully, have some brighter days ahead moving forward here in 2024. But that'll about do us here for episode 192. Just want to say appreciate you guys for tuning into this one, whether you watched it on YouTube. If you did do that, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, give us a like on the video before you head out. Helps a ton with the algorithm, and be sure to subscribe here. Ton of Mountaineer football content on the YouTube side of things. And if you listen to the audio version, you can find on any podcast platform, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, you name it. Share us around with other Mountaineer fans and leave us a rating, please, if you would, preferably a 5-star rating. But hey, give us what you think that we deserve. And shout out to WVSportsNow.com for hosting our episodes as well. And remember, check out Magic Mind if you haven't already. Got the code there for the discount. Use CountryLT20 at checkout, and you can go to magicmind.com/CountryLT to do just that. We're looking to see the Mountaineers get back on the winning track this week against Albany, and we're excited to check out this game. We'll be back for the review podcast, most likely releasing on Monday following the game. Should be a fun one. Hopefully West Virginia comes out and performs well. We're excited to watch it just like you all are, and excited to cover this 2024 season with you all throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, for my co-host Steven, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those